Another campaign promise, officially reinstating thousands of U.S. service members discharged for not getting the COVID vaccine, and they get full back pay.
Madeline Rivera is in Washington with all the details for us. Hey, Maddie.
Hi, guys. Good morning. The White House says this redress is long overdue, calling the dismissal of military members who refused the COVID vaccine wrongful. Like you mentioned, Brian, this new executive order given exclusively to our Peter Doocy this morning directs Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to reinstate all members of the military who were discharged for rejecting the COVID vaccine, and they will receive full pay and benefits. President Trump mentioned this pledge just a week ago in his inauguration speech. The COVID vaccine was required for U.S. military service members for 15 months from August 2021 to January 2023. At the time, former Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby called the mandate to get the vaccines a readiness issue. 8,400 service members were discharged for not getting the COVID vaccine. In January 2023, former Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin rescinded the mandate. It was the first time in U.S. history the military reversed a vaccine mandate. But only dozens of those who were discharged chose to return to the military. Republicans have argued the mandate hurt the military's recruiting and retention capabilities. Last year, Austin touted the military's retention rates and stated nearly all active and reserve components of the military met their recruiting targets for the 2024 fiscal year. But the military had acknowledged it had a recruiting crisis just the year before, and the mandate was a political headache for the Biden administration, with some troops suing, calling the order illegal. Later this hour, Florida Congressman Brian Mast will be joining Fox and Friends, and he will have reaction to this new executive order from President Trump. Lauren, Steve Ainsley, and Brian.
Thank you very much, Maddie. I'm sure Brian Mast is going to be delighted. Donald Trump ran on this. This is just another thing. I don't know if they've got in the West Wing somewhere a great big chalkboard or something like that, like last time where they check stuff off. Here's something else he promised, and 1 week into his administration, check that off.
The argument was these are military men and women. They're some of our strongest individuals in our country, and many of them had natural immunity. So the argument for Trump was, these are our military. They're willing to sacrifice their lives to fight for our country, and we're going to kick out 8,000 of them because they won't get a vaccine?
Yeah, 8,000 go out. Get this, too. Remember the exemption? Wouldn't honor the religious exemption on the vaccine? Only last time when they lifted and said you can come back now without a vaccine, only 43 went back. But now that they say you can go back with full pay, full rank, and back pay, I think that's excellent. The other thing, Lawrence, is that President Biden never talked about recruiting.
Nope.
Austin never talked about recruiting. But until I read the story, I didn't realize people on the outside go, I'm not signing up for that. Yeah. How many people said, I'm not going to even go in the recruiting office. I'm not taking the shot.
Brian, it's like you read my mind. Just from a logical standpoint, why would you get rid of servicemen and women when we're at a deficit right now when it comes to recruitment? It's like we don't have the room to be getting rid of service members. We should be getting more. And it just seems to me that they were such into the Fauci nonsense and some of the stuff that was coming from the FDA and some of the other organizations. There are certain people that had national immunity. Yeah. There are certain people, especially when you're talking about young people that were healthy as well. Talking about service members, I think they could have
Some women wanted to get pregnant. They didn't feel comfortable getting it. Right. And I think that the bottom line is most of the people who decided not to get a vaccine are Republicans, and they like Donald Trump. I think it was a political move. And our government was forcing us to put something in our body that some people weren't comfortable with.
And the main difference is the mandate. Trump said, yeah, I got you warp speed, I got you that, but I wouldn't have mandated the whole country to take it.
Exactly
it resulted in so much resentment.
So this only came out 5 minutes ago. That's when the embargo was lifted. It will be interesting to see. Keep in mind, some people have been out of work or out of that line of work for 4 or 5 years. So given the fact that they are going to return to their rank with back pay at their normal pay, we don't know if they're going to go back wherever they were posted.